become the norm in Ghana. If you want to enter politics, you must have money, and a lot of it to influence those you think should support you or vote for you. And not just them alone, but those you believe could influence others to get the kind of support you need to achieve your purpose. Why has this become a problem, despite the fact that the country's criminal code, section 240, even frowns on this? Hello, good evening, and welcome to Agenda. My name is Beatrice Edu, and tonight we're going to go into this very issue once again, following the NDC's primary in Ayawaso East constituency, which got Baba Jamal, the now record High Commissioner to Nigeria, back to the country, win that election and the controversy surrounding his win. My name is Beatrice Edu. Thank you once again for joining us. Remember that we're streaming live as well on 3FM 92.7. Send us your comments and we'll read them back to you. I do have on the panel with me Professor Ali Disedu. He's the Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. Prof, it's great to have you here once again. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Beatrice.
I also do have with me Mr. Jeffrey Okanse, who is anti-corruption advocate. It's great to have you as well. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, I do have as well Dr. John Osai Kwapon, Democracy and Development Fellow at the CDD Ghana. Prof, good evening to you. It's great to see you in person and have you here as well.
Thank you very much.
Of course, I do have a video call as well. Professor Enoch Entry, who is a governance expert, he's joining us for a video call. Prof, if you can hear us, good evening to you. Thank you as well for joining us.
Yes, I can hear you very loud and clear, Beatrice. Greetings to all your viewers everywhere in the world and the panelists out there.
Thank you. So let me just get into it right away. And I want to start with you, Mr. Okanse, because this is not the first time we're talking about this. I believe the last time we did talk about this, Prof himself was here as well. So why is this still dominating conversations? Because it seems to be getting worse.
Yeah, because I think we've decided as a country to play the ostrich approach. I mean, we all seem to, when we come into the public light, we decide that, look, this is what we don't like. We've enacted a law to it. But then on the other side of it, we tolerate and see it happening. And it's moving from state to state, such that I've even seen videos of children contesting at the basic level, pledging and promising their colleagues the world.
Children at which level?
Basic level. You've not seen one of such videos when they were promising their classmates during their campaigns, you know, monies. They said they'll give them lajes, they'll give them this, you know. And I think that's how bad it is. People, you go to the Facebook or the social walls, and people see it and they laugh about it. I don't find them funny at all. Because it's actually painted into the minds of these children that, hey, before you need to get people to support you, you need to buy their vote. At that basic level. You know, so it's, and then when it comes to, I'm a former National Nooks executive. I'm not here to come and joke. I mean, the truth is that right from student leadership, people were infusing that habit. And so right here in your studios, TV3, the theater studio, I sat on a panel, a show by Wodaf about women participation in politics. Many years ago, I was with Dr. Ofe Abuaji, you know, and I mentioned that the things that stopped women from participating in politics, the two major devils, were corruption, as in vote buying, and violence. These are the two things. So forget about affirmative action. No, I told them many years ago. And some of them thought I was so young, a Nooks executive, he was youthful, exuberant, but that was a fact. And so we are still fighting it. How many women are in parliament?
So you're claiming that when you were a Nooks executive, you never paid money to anybody?
Me? I won my election with 2 votes. That means I nearly lost. I didn't have my own lorry fare to go to the Congress Johnson in Kumasi. And you're talking about me bribing somebody. Those who went with me to St. Louis, they know. And so from that time, look, I speak well. I know how to play politics from primary school. But it ended for me at Nooks because I cannot indulge in some of the things they are doing. I'm not a saint. But I mean, you saw the results. During the MPP primaries too, you saw the results. Those who didn't give the money, as we all knew, you saw what they got. And those who gave the money, you saw what they got. So there was a clear distinction between the 3 candidates who were seen giving the largesse and the 2 others who were down there. It was a wide gap. You could see clearly that the influence happened. And look, pathetic is when what actually brought the recent uproar, that the candidate himself came public to tell us that actually he's giving.
Baba Jamal?
Yes, that if you accept the gift and you allow it to influence. So he even gave a tendency that a code, but that was not his intention. He tries to paint it, but then it could. So why do it? That's why the law In fact, look, I've heard in a few minutes past that their party, it's not about their party. The act was committed in public. And the state institutions that are in charge, the anti-graft institutions, must take up the issue.
Well, we are aware that the special prosecutor has already taken up the issue today. We saw the lawyer of Mr. Jamal speaking to us and saying that he had been granted bail and on a number of charges as well. I'll come back to you, Prof. You were elected to Parliament following the unfortunate demise of the former member of Parliament for that area. Tell us, how much, for instance, did you spend just so you could make your way to the legislature?
Good evening to your viewers, and then good evening to the people of Tamale Central. The issue of monetization in politics is one of the serious challenges to our democratic consolidation. And I proceed with the two assumptions that it is not new and it is not peculiar to Ghana. Now, if you go back to the history of politics, money in politics, or money and politics, they are like Siamese twins, I always say it. Conjoined at the neck, very difficult to separate. And it is not new. If you read the works of Stefan Eich, he has a very fantastic book called The Currency of Politics. He actually related the significance of money to the conduct of politics as far back as the 7th century BC. And largely in that particular book, he talks about the political philosophers and how political philosophers has bemoaned and wrote about the influence of money in politics, including Aristotle, including John Locke, and several other political philosophers who have written extensively about it. If you look at the literature on political economy of elections, it has actually detailed the relationship between money and politics and the influencing dynamics that exist between them. So largely, it's the same issue, but different rendition across centuries. So it's not new. But second, it's not peculiar to Ghana. Even if you look at developed countries like the United States of America, in 2024 alone, the U.S. super PACs, that is public action committees, were able to raise $5.1 billion and spend $3.4 billion in elections, funding people and then the activities related to it. But the most expensive elections that we've had in U.S. history was in 2020, when about $14.4 billion was spent on federal elections alone. And if you look at Britain, it's the same thing. So the U.S. is the best example of presidential system of government in our democratic dispensation in the world. Then when you look at parliament, so it's not only peculiar to presidential systems, but even if you look at parliamentary system like the British United Kingdom, until last year, the most expensive elections that was held in the U.S. was as far back as 1880. And if you look at a research that was done recently in 2005, they did an accumulated calculation of the number of amounts spent by each candidate. And that was that amounted to what? 100 million pounds. Now, if you even convert it to putting inflation and other things into consideration, if you convert it to current currency, that is around 170 million.
So, Prof, I get the point you're making.
So the point I want to make is that this is not new, and it's not even peculiar to our democracy. Even advanced democracy, they are there. But so what?
So
what?
The problem in the country, which is why we're talking about this, is in this part of the country, we seem to make it or present it in such a way that until you have a certain kinds of cash, you will not be able to contest. That's where the problem is. And I'll come to Doc very quickly to give us a stop.
I'm not justifying it. I said that is wrong. And it is one of the serious challenges to our democracy. But even in the developed world, it's the same thing. But the fact is that these are much more regulated. You see, the amount of money an individual can contribute to a campaign of a candidate or party is clearly defined. The amount of money a political action committee can contribute to a candidate or a party is clearly defined. And there are regulators and transparency organizations that make sure that these are clearly followed.
These are clearly followed. You didn't answer the question, though, as regards how much you as a politician or moving from the academia into politics, how much you spent.
I can't remember how much I spent in my campaign.
Okay. I'll get back to you on that. Mr. Doc, I will come to you, but I want to get the quick thought of Professor Enoch Entry, who is joining us via video call, because you will really be breaking down for us what the CDD has done. And I want to get a quick thought of Professor Enoch Entry. Prof, if you can hear us, what are your own thoughts, or where do you stand on what's been said so far?
Yes, I've been listening to my colleagues out there, and Prof talked about a PAC, and unfortunately, he said he can't remember how much he spent. Of course, if money is coming from your pocket, you should be able to tell Ghanaians how much you spend. It will help in academia and in resetting our finances and probity and accountability in our system. I think that, we need to reset our states and the means that we do politics. It is about vote buying and vote selling and where the money is coming from. These are the three fundamental issues. But in doing that, we also have a couple of questions. How do we ensure transparent selection process that is fair, transparent, and inclusive to boost the confidence in our young political dispensation? And then the second fundamental question is, how do we compensate delegates fairly for their time? These are the issues that we have to talk about. So yes, we can talk about a PAC in America, the UK, what is happening there, but individuals donate to candidates in US, in Canada, in Europe. It is not the candidate who goes and pay delegates money. Individuals donate $5, $2, $1 here to the candidates, and then the candidates will use the money for the media engagement and the community engagement that they do. And in the end, they also declare the money that they had and then the taxes that they paid and everything. Ours is different. We have a situation where you have to distribute TV, ice chairs, Kusiani Maku, whatever it is that we saw. And these are clear because candidates themselves have admitted that this is what they did. But let's face the fact, all the 276 members of parliament in Ghana, none of them did not pay a bribe or a gift to win their position. It means we are all delegates at a certain point. And because everybody paid something to end their position, we just missed the bus, because this was a clear opportunity for all of us to say that enough is enough. We've been paying that kind of money. Yes, we need to find a fair system of paying delegates because they have been using their time. And don't forget, every delegate that you see in the constituency level, at the ground level, they also paid to win elections. So if you see a woman organizer there in the constituency, a chairman there, a secretary, they paid money to win those elections to be delegates. So the payment system has been starting from our grassroots, and we cannot sustain it because all parliamentarians know that it is choking them. So we missed the bus of this Baba Jama situation to use the situation to have a public debate. How do we fix this so that we will not be giving money and giving money and giving money, and people who are selling their votes and people who are buying votes? That is not the way to sustain our democracy, because we have a lot of delegates who don't have jobs. A lot of our delegates, and I have a book here. Everything is documented on this book about Ghana's grassroots democracy, the suffering answers from delegates, candidates, spiritism, and renouncing citizenship. So I have talked about that we need to find a way to fix that problem, because we cannot continue to buy votes and delegates cannot continue to sell votes. But how do we find the best way of compensating these delegates for their time in voting for us?
And I'll come back to you, Prof. I want to get some more details as regards really what the problem is. Dr. Osei Kwapon, just give us really an understanding of why we have this even now. I know the CDD has done some work in this.
So thank you very much. Good evening to your guest. Good evening to the co-panelist. I want to begin by saying those of us, whether it's civil society, media, we recognize that politics is costly. Campaigning for office would involve a certain expenditure. So that is really not the issue of contention. The issue of contention is how much of that is acceptable and to what purpose are you putting that money? So Prof was able to cite numbers from the US, in terms of who is raising how much these PACs are spending. The difference between those other jurisdictions and our jurisdiction is that there's a lot more transparency and greater regulation. I mean, if you look at even the election that former President Obama won in the US, I mean, the kind of money he was able to raise, therefore did not even need to take any public financing, right, was a whole new record. But you can go to the Federal Election Commission website in the US, you can find out who is giving money to who, how much. You can also find out on the candidate side what they are spending money
open
on.
Secrets, right, in the US?
It's very, very, very transparent, and woe betide to you that you don't properly report your campaign expenditure. The regulations are enforced that you can actually, there have been people who've gotten into trouble for violating campaign finance laws. The other context too from the US is that, there's been a lot of conversations around putting some limits around how much money we can spend in elections. I remember the late Senator John McCain, that was one of his biggest issues. He was always trying to do work around campaign finance. Interestingly, in one of the cases that reached the Supreme Court, essentially what the court said was money is equal to speech, right? That if you regulate money, then you're regulating someone's free speech rights. But still, there's that transparency and proper regulation. We don't have that here. Candidates, we always hear, oh, person A is a sponsor of this party, or person A is a supporter of that party in terms of financial. But you never get the sort of detailed records of how much did, Mr. A give to party B, and what did party A spend on all of these things. What the CDD study tried to do was to look at parliamentary candidates. So they looked at those who were successful in the 2016 election, those who were not, those who lost a party primary, and then those who were in the previous parliament and were not going to contest, again. Trying to get a sense of, how much is it costing you, what kinds of expenditures are you, incurring. But when all is said and done, the issue for me is what is an acceptable level of money, quote unquote, in our politics. Are we now leaving some of these positions to the highest bidder, meaning the person with the deepest pocket? Where are these monies coming from? But most importantly, is it being used also to buy votes?
What's your understanding of, for instance, what happened with Baba Jamal and the Ayawaso East issue?
So for me, the explanation that I read and heard was that these were gifts. They were not meant to influence anybody. I always say that if you're running for office and I give you 10 cedis, right? I can make the argument that 10 cedis is just because I really believe in you and I want you to win the election. But when you start crossing a certain threshold, I find it very difficult that what you are giving the voter has no connection to what you expect the voter to do.
So this is what he explained later, that it is, the problem is not the giving and the taking. The problem is if you allow that to influence you.
Correct. But again, I find it very difficult to accept the argument that what is alleged to have been given, a TV, that it was a gift. My counter question to that is, so all this while that I've lived in Ayawaso constituency, you never thought of me, you never remembered that I lived there, and you never thought to come and give me a gift until you were running to be your party's candidate for parliament.
The coincidence he's been doing.
But the coincidence is odd, right? And so it is the oddity of that coincidence that raises the question of truly, why are you giving this at this particular time? To voters.
Let me bring you some details as regards really the figures we have from that CDD work, just so you get to understand really what the problem is like on the ground. All right. So how, in terms of how much it cost to win a parliamentary seat, per what the CDD did, it's around 650,000 US dollars. That's 10 million Ghana cedis. Also, let's just break it down a little bit in terms of campaign costs. It says constituency nurturing, and perhaps you'll be able to tell us what that means, constituency nurturing. That's 2 million. Prof, did you do that? Professor Alidu, did you do constituency nurturing?
But we'll help you figure.
The constituency nurturing usually have to do with your interface and expressing the intention to contest.
And you still don't remember how much you spent at the constituency
my case was
date?
different. There was an incident, then a deadline was given. So the constituency nurturing, it's not like somebody may want to contest a seat and start the nurturing maybe 4 or 5 years ahead of time.
Okay.
You go in there, you participate in activities, you give 5 cedis for water. That's how people do, right? So it takes time. So when you calculate the amount of time that people use to nurture and feel part and belonging to that particular constituency, it usually takes time. So it makes the amount very high.
Okay, so let's go back into it. So that the constituency nurturing per the work of the CDD is around 2 million Ghana cedis. Primaries plus party processes, also campaign logistics and mobilization, general election campaigning. So giving us that average, so the cost of winning the presidency is around 150 million US dollars. So between that and $200 million. I thought when Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh mentioned this, was it last year or in 2024, he talked about 2 million and it's jumped to 200, like between 150 million and 200 million. What happened?
Well, I mean, it's getting more and more costly, the kinds of things that candidates are spending on. One of the biggest expenditure areas is advertising, whether it's in media spaces, things like that. So you're talking, and then trying to win an election the first time, I believe is very challenging, and then trying to keep your seat because who knows who your new competitors are. So all of those things, and I'm sure what what a delegate may have wanted, 3 elections ago, may have changed in today's election. So that whole dynamic is what is making our elections even more costly.
I'm coming to you, Mr. Okansi, because Professor Inokentri made a point earlier about the suffering of the people within the communities. To what extent do you believe this could be influencing why people themselves even go to these politicians and say that, well, you have to give me something if you're considering even coming to this area to represent us?
I think that fits into my point of the steps of this monetization of the whole political system. It starts with the exorbitant filing fees that are charged by the political parties. The parties themselves, the amounts they put over there. I mean, you should find better ways of selecting who to contest rather than using money as a blockade. You put, how much how much do you pay for a filing fee? I mean, that's a lot of money, right? Something that you can't even save over the years if you don't have the big checks. And then they put those monies there. That is step one. And then it comes to the candidates themselves, the doling out of these monies, And then the third point is the demand. We're in this country, when a whole process of election at the stadium was halted because delegates were at Legon, waiting for the candidates to come and see them. Look, I said we are playing ostrich. We know. It happened in Ghana here. The whole process, it was on all the radio stations that the delegates have refused to come because they want the contestants to come and see them. See them for what? And we knew what they wanted. So it also goes to the delegates themselves. They demand it. And then also there's a disconnect. So the EC on the day of the election is sitting there saying that they are doing their own thing. And then when we use the word fairness, the free and fair election, people think we are talking about where they are voting alone. The fairness starts from campaign. Right down from campaign time to the final declaration, that is where fairness is. It runs through. You see, you don't put the giraffe and the goat on the same level playing field and say they should reach out for something because you have created a level field. No. That's equality. That's not equity. So moving forward, we should look at that. Fairness, you lie to yourself that there is fairness. When indeed somebody is sharing TV and the other doesn't have the resources, that is not fairness. Fairness is actually, that is why we had the law to clear everything like that so that you go in there and talk about what you can do for the people. like he said, nurturing. You see, that's where I would disagree when it comes to the monetary side of the nurturing. Because if you want to nurture, you should nurture the vision and then sell your vision and nurture the people to accept you.
But we've seen data which shows that Ghanaians don't vote necessarily because of ideas. They vote because of other reasons.
You see, because we allowed the money to come in. Yesterday, the people who were contesting, you saw them. I don't have any disrespect for them. I'm not saying they are poor people, but they came in because you look at the fine materials. Look, listen to the people discussing on the political platform today. Are you not disappointed? If you are not, I am. Some basic issues you expect people to come and speak about. But you see, because it is just money to take them there, look, my chemistry master once said, a calculator in the hands of a fool is a dangerous machine. Okay? If you give power to people who are not supposed to hold power, you hear some of the things you are hearing. You see some of the things you are seeing. Look, the people who are the delegates going to vote, who are they? I'm not saying only the literates. I'm not saying only the doctors and the professors. There are people who have not seen the classroom before, but they are discerning. They want to see what you want to do for the constituency. So nurture the ideas, see the chiefs, see the opinion leaders. If you want to be a leader, you start doing some things that we all know. Look, even in primary school, from class 4, class 5, we knew who would be class 6. In class 6 would be the prefect and be the prefect in DSS. We saw the behaviors. Look, drunks. You see, amongst them, when there's going to be something about election, you will see them going against their people. They want another person who is very clean to be the leader. Why? They'll tell you, look, this guy, will go and drink with him, and you want him to come and lead us. I saw that in the university. One of the election times, the other guys were like, look, this guy, we can't trust him. He's our own man. But that is how people can. So don't look down on anybody. Talk to them, nurture them, not about the money. Sometimes it's only about playing football with them, chatting with them, being there to do cleanups with them. When they see you amongst them and they fall in love with you because you do the right things, you don't need to buy them cars and motorbikes. You don't need to give them television sets. Indeed, not all the people supporting the politicians in this country want something from them.
Do I hear you say that you think Baba Jamal's issue has been handled leniently?
I think it's been too light, especially when he had that confidence to come on air publicly to say that, well, if you allow it to influence you. Indeed, so he sees the possibility that, look, there's a tendency that whatever he was giving could influence if the person allowed it. So why did he give it? Like my senior was saying, of all through the year, you decide when you are going to contest. That is when you will give him television set. He didn't need to watch TV. When the year started last year, you realize that he must watch TV. The day you are going to contest, that is when you will give him a TV to go and watch the results. That's what you want. Well, we accept it. But I've told you, these are the steps that it starts with the political parties themselves. It goes to the candidate who is contesting, who is also doling it out. The delegates who are also demanding from them.
So the political parties, for instance, say that they use some of these monies they demand as part of, the monies that the parties need to function.
Because they are not innovative. They are not innovative. Look, there's been campaigns around, one city campaign, and people, like you said, in the US, people, the individuals contesting, plus their cronies, go out there and publicly give lines, and people give the monies to support. That is how transparent the process is. So if you really, as a political party, look, even football clubs, the people, look, it is so funny. The one-man churches, the women who don't have the money who complain, go and watch them at Achimota Forest. Every afternoon, they get money to go in there and go and pay their contribution and do collection over there. So the truth is that, look, if you sell your ideas well, how come there are hearts of folk supporters, Kotoko die-hard supporters, who do Yibima, just to give, to take a player? Far back in the years, Charles Taylor, Kotoko supporters gave money just to buy him a car. I mean, they do good things for them. They give him some love because they believe in it. If you're a politician, you sell your ideas well, you're a nice person, you attract people. Indeed, there's no excuse to put that huge amount there as a filing fee so that you are using it to check whatever or to go and support your party. Why can't your party members? They all boast of having about 4 million supporters or even 3 million. Even if you have 3 million people and they were paying a monthly dues of 5 cedis or even 10 cedis or 50 pesos, if you had half of them giving you 2 cedis a month, that's your membership and they can contribute to you, you can get some monies to support. Indeed, there are other people in that party who can even give more. Look, how we have monetized the system.
Wrapping up for me.
And we have had people who, the lords of the game, we've opened the gates. So right now, because we don't see it, you don't even know who is sponsoring. And you won't know who will be coming back to pick from the national kitty.
You will know who will be coming back to pick from the national kitty. You're still here on Agenda on TV3. My name is Beatrice. When we come back, we'll go into the solutions, really. What needs to be done to ensure that we deal with this once and for all? Do stay with us.
When you are going to buy a paint, don't look left, don't look right. Go straight and grab the luxury acrylic paint. No be any paint, be paint.
The luxury acrylic paint.
Paint me champion. When you are going to buy a paint, don't look left, don't look right. Go straight and grab the luxury acrylic paint. No be any paint, be paint.
The luxury acrylic paint.
Paint me.
When the sun rises, there is hope. While this hope lingers on, the citizens look up to the government, the economy, the national development agenda, and everything in between. On Ghana Tonight, it's our utmost priority to bring you insightful conversations on the economy, break down the biggest issues while setting the agenda for transformation and national development. The big and important stories are treated from the human interest angle, while the facts and the figures are painted with precision. So now, let's cut the convention and start the conversation here on Ghana Tonight. I am your host, Alfred Okamsi.
Ghana Tonight shows Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by
Flamingo Paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Kel Charcoal Toothpaste.
When you are going to buy a paint, don't look left, don't look right. Go straight and grab the luxury acrylic paint. No be any paint, be paint.
The luxury acrylic paint.
Paint me champion.
And you're still here on Agenda on TV3. My name is Beatrice. Tonight we're looking at the cost of doing politics in Ghana and why it keeps getting more expensive, despite the regulations or the laws that guard these things and the fact that all of them frown on vote buying, among others. I do have on the panel with me Professor Inokentri, who is actually via video call with us. He's a governance expert, Mr. Jeffrey Okanse, anti-corruption advocate, also Professor Ali Duseidu, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. We do have as well Dr. John Osai Kwapon, who is Democracy and Development Fellow, CDD Ghana. I'm coming back to you, Prof. Again, like I said, it's not the first time we've spoken about this. Are there any recommendations from your end as regards how we can really nip this in the bud?
Beatrice, you're talking to me, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because there's another prof there. So, many years now, delegates have been sacked with bad promises that, when you vote for me and I come back, I will do A, B, C, and D. And most of the time, they don't come back. So most delegates believe that when I vote for you, I will not see you again until the next 4 years. And that's why they believe that during the campaigning, it is their cocoa season to get something from the delegates. I've seen as much as 10,000, 11,000 that each delegate has been getting from about 4 or 5 contestants in one primary. Just the primaries, not the national one, where you have to stand for the constituency. So it is becoming too expensive. And if you don't take care, individuals who have genuine love for their, constituency, they have knowledge and wisdom, might not be able to represent us in parliament because it's all about money. I remember when I came to Ghana, one prominent individual, I cannot mention the name, called me and said, Prof, with all the knowledge and the wisdom you have, Ghanaians don't need it. What they need is money. I thought he was stupid, but now I understand what he was trying to tell me. So if you're looking at the solutions, those bad promises that candidates make to the delegates, we should stop it. Don't go and promise something that you cannot deliver, because it doesn't go away. It lingers there, and it creates a problem for other contestants who are coming in there. The other thing that I want to recommend is that the president has done a good job by recalling Baba Jama. So the president did his piece. The National Executive Committee of individual political parties have to look at a couple of things. They have to engage delegates early. So you have to make sure that nobody likes a stranger anyway. But strangers are friends you never met before. So you have to engage the delegates early for them to know you. That will help reduce the cost. Then the process, about the timeliness, expectations, should be clear to build the trust. Then I've talked about transparent selection process. We need to be very transparent in selecting people, not only those who bring money, but individuals who genuinely love the constituency, and you know that they are genuine, they are authentic, they can contribute. We have to look that way. We also have to respect and value delegates. Some people, the way they talk to delegates, they think that giving them money should be it. And delegates should come on board, because 80% of leadership is followership. So these delegates who are at the epicenter of our democracy, because they are the heart of it. Without them, we cannot have people from the grassroots selecting individuals for the regions and the nationals for us. So we need to respect them, because it is only a prudent person who will see the need to go pick forms and file to be a delegate. There are many educated people who have not filed to be delegates, and I don't know why. Because if somebody is a judge or a lawyer or a professor or a lecturer, you can't go and then give them 32-inch TV to vote for you. You dare not do that. But if the individual has seen the sense in doing that, I'm begging that most people who are intellectuals in different professions should also try to be at a delegate level. It will help a lot. There are places that I've seen about 1,100 delegates, just about 10 or 15 are graduates. The rest, I'm not saying that you have to be a graduate, but when people don't have meaningful jobs and they are delegates, they are tempted to receive some of this money. And of course, the intent is that it's going to influence the way they vote for you. I'm also talking about focus on key issues. There are a lot of gatherings, community gatherings. You meet people here, you give them lorry fares. People come to you as individuals with different challenges. My husband has got stroke. I have this issue, school fees, and all those. We have to begin to think about collective good for the people. So let's talk about a library. Instead of giving individuals money, let's talk about the roads there, the bridges there, the hospitals there, the schools. If individuals who are contesting can use their money to build something that will benefit everybody, and then we can have the best, market woman, the best teacher in the constituency. These are the things that are collective responsibilities and collective gains, instead of individuals coming to you to take money, because they will take money from each contestant. If you are 5 or 6, they will take money from all of you.
Indeed.
And then in the end, even a day before the elections, you have to put envelope money. And then there's a top-up envelope money. And when you...
Well, Prof, I probably will have to come back to you, but let me just read a number of your messages before I get your thoughts on your recommendations. Evans 1GA says, Professor Enoch has spoken my mind. Indeed, if Professor Alidu will be honest with us, he would be able to tell us how much he spent, at least an estimation. And there is also a message from a number of you sending us your messages, just scrolling to get, so from Michael Mabo, he says, good morning, I don't know where you're watching us from, but he says it's important to clarify that sharing gifts during election is not inherently wrong within the Ghanaian context. Our political culture is rooted in community, reciprocity, and goodwill, which differs from Western political traditions, including that of United States. What may be frowned upon elsewhere is in Ghana a long-standing social practice that reflects care and connection, not automatic inducement. Prof, let me get your thoughts really on how we can deal with this.
So I think the first thing I need to state is that, just like I'm not saying I completely agree with him, but I think using money to campaign or influence voters, it's not an entirely bad thing. And I think if you go back to, say, 1976, there was a U.S. Supreme Court decision between Berkeley and Value. That was just what you referred to. And then the Supreme Court, that case, they decided that spending money to influence elections is a form of constitutionally protected free speech, right? So I think context, that in itself is not entirely bad, but context matters. So largely, the context influences the level of development, the level of poverty incidence, and the level to which these things are done. Context also determine what? Regulatory framework and the regulatory frameworks that are put in place. Context even determine voter behavior and voter actions. Even the most rational of voters can be selfish. That is the egotropic explanation of voter behavior. So what should we do? I think legislation is very key. I refer to the fact that one of the most high-spent elections, the most expensive election in British history, was in 1880. When the 1880 incident happened, the British system decided to put in place what? A committee. And an act was carved, that was in Act 18 in 1883, to punish excessive spending and regulate spending behavior. So we need legislations to be able to regulate our spending behavior. Not just enacting the legislation, but enforcing them. You see, when we talk about US and all those places, most of them, the state plays a role, the extent to which political parties are funded and run elections. So they are able to regulate them. But here, if the state doesn't play a role in funding your campaign, the basis or the power to regulate you is very minimal. So we just don't need legislations, but we also need enforcement. And we also need, legislations, but we need enforcement. And we also need regulations. You see, maybe it's high time we created an institution that is able to regulate election spending. The EC is very busy with conducting elections, compiling research. Would there be another institution that can regulate spending in politics and all those things? So that level of regulation can actually help us.
That level of regulation can help us. Another person says he was very economical with the truth. Why were the TVs given to only delegate? Why do our politicians feel like they are the only people privy to the school of common sense? So that's, I believe, to Baba Jamal. Let me get your thoughts briefly as well on the way forward.
So I agree with the calls for regulatory oversight. There are provisions in the Constitution that talks about who and who cannot give to a political party, the requirement for audited accounts to be submitted every year that details revenue, expenses, all of that. We also have the Political Parties Act that speaks to some of these things. But I think where the law is very silent, and Professor Kweku Azai and Kwesi Prempeh, in a study they did, pointed out that the focus of our laws tend to be on the party and not on the candidate and the campaign, right? So a lot more regulations around that. But at the political party level, I have constantly advocated for an open primary. Every registered member of the party should be allowed to participate in a party primary. And the reason I give to it is that if the contention is that because we have a delegate system, it is easier for candidates to, quote unquote, buy delegates, then if you open the competition to everyone who is a member of the party and can vote, I always say that it is much easier, quote unquote, to buy a delegate or a number of delegates than it is to buy an entire constituency. The last thing I would add is I've had conversations with my friends in the political parties. When I talk about open primaries, they also mention logistics, the cost of it, and the fear that if you are not careful, people from the other side of the political aisle will infiltrate their primary and help select a candidate for them. But I still believe that there are ways around doing an open primary. And for me, that would be one good way to resolve that.
When we come back, I'll get your thoughts, Mr. Okanse, and we'll wrap up the conversation. Just stay with us.
When you're going to buy a pen, don't look left, don't look right. Go straight and grab the luxury acrylic paint. No be any painting be painted.
The luxury acrylic paint.
Paint champion.
This is Hot Issues, your passport to the most
She said we're talking about the cost of doing politics in Ghana. Mr. Kansa, I want to get your thought as well on really the recommendations. There are those who are suggesting that if you look at our Criminal Act 29, Section 240, and I'll just read that quickly. It says a public officer, juror, or voter commits corruption in respect of the duties of office or the vote if the public officer, juror, or voter directly or indirectly agrees to or offers to permit the conduct of that person as a public officer, juror, or voter to be influenced by the gift, promise, or prospect of a valuable consideration to be received by that person or by any other person from any other person. There are those who say that this criminalizes our national elections, but we should bring that to the party level as well. That could help deal with the problem. Do you share this opinion?
Yes, I do. I think that it's one of my recommendations for us to review our electoral laws, and then we need to stick out firm punitive measures to some of the things we'll look at. But I have two major things about the problems. We are creating a problem of corruption if we allow things to go this way. Because at the end of the day, there's no transparency around who is bringing in the money. Again, we are creating a very unfair playing field, because then it becomes who has the money wins the day. That is what we are doing right now. I mean, we are playing the ostrich. That's the problem. And the irony, I remember I told Prof, the irony is that after sharing the motorbikes and the television sets, they come to us as citizens, me, the son of a poor banku seller, to give them a car loan. The person who is sharing the motorbikes, the man who says, he said he has a fund of $2.5 million or
yes.
million Ghana cedis.
Yes, 2.5. He didn't mention the currency,
cedis,
but
yeah,
he said
cedis, 2.5 million cedis.
Dedicated to giving free loans.
The same man, after winning this election, I have to give him a car loan. That is why it's sickening. That's why it's very troubling. You go and share motorbikes. You go and share television sets. And then you come to the Banku seller's son, my tax money, to come and take a loan, a car loan. I should give you a loan. After you have dashed motorbikes, you want a car loan for me. Which part of the world would this one make sense? I mean, you come and share television sets, and you come and boldly tell me that this is what you do out of your own free will, and then I have to come and give you a car loan.
Your final word, please.
But for the way forward, I think we need to empower the state institutions, like we saw right now, OSP taking the bold step. Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, if we find some of these things quickly. Now let's sensitize the whole stakeholder populace around the game. EC officials, everybody, political parties, candidates. The word fair, the free and fair election, the fair is not on the day when nobody fights. I've listened to some of the communicators from the NDC saying, no, nobody, there was peace. No. Fairness is not when you don't see people throwing blows. Fairness comes to when somebody has a money resource to be sharing TV and motorbikes. That is an unfair situation. You are creating a very unlevel playing field.
We've never had a completely free and
so
well, it's relatively free.
Relatively fair. And then we need all the institutions like NCC, EC to come together, and all the political parties to sensitize people about how fair the process should be. Now, the next thing we should do is to target, if we can't expand the electoral college, let's have common platforms for them to make the campaigns very simple. So, like for these primaries, you have the constituencies where they will go. It's one constituency that they are in there. So you can just create that area, electoral area platforms for them to campaign, rather than allow everybody else to show their political might with money. It's a troubling issue. And you see, to the extent...
You will be wrapping up for me,
finally,
please.
To the extent that the political parties want to make a point that they charge these exorbitant amounts just because they want to raise funds, they should look at the churches, the one-man churches. They raise funds because people believe in the system. You should look at the football club approach. They do souvenirs and other things people buy, and they raise money through all these ones. And then the transparent processes must work. I think moving forward, all I'm going to say is that, look, if we continue like this, then we should always expect that after the election, the contracts will go to somewhere. Since we have decided that there should be ghosts who are behind the scenes sponsoring, and we don't want to see who it is, then the same ghosts will come and take the contracts when the election is over. So if we really want to fight corruption around elections, we should make it transparent and ensure that whoever gives a dime or a penny should come on paper, and so we see. Because if we make this system go on, we'll see our children. You see, a friend told me that a child came to him to say that he wants to share Calipo during elections, and that's where we have got into.
That's where we've got into. Please, in 30 seconds.
So one of the critical dangers to our democracy is monetization. And I do believe that critical steps has to be taken to regulate it and to make sure that we conduct elections in a way that merits the democratic principles that we have chosen for ourselves. But until that is done, I think there's still a whole lot of leeway for people to do what they think is right or what they think they must do. And even when this happens, I think the necessary appropriate law enforcement agencies has to take it up and make sure that the issues are properly investigated. And then punitive decision where it's necessary has to be taken. Because if you don't take the bulls by the horns, it will be very difficult for us to consolidate.
Prof, in like 30 seconds.
Yes, so Prof had mentioned the idea of state funding of political parties, except that the political appetite is not there. So in 2005, in a CDD study, 53% of Ghanaians were willing to support some form of state funding of political parties. In Afrobarometer Round 9, 2022, when they asked a similar question, only 27% of Ghanaians said they would be willing to support some kind of funding for political parties. So the political appetite is not there, which then leaves us with things like, regulatory enforcement and oversight. And like for me, as I keep saying, changing the delegate system. And if people are found to have broken the laws, hopefully you can, punish them to serve as a deterrent to others.
Indeed. Professor Enoch-Entry, in 30 seconds, your final word.
Of this electoral process entails perception, and we just saw the CPI, Corruption Perception Index, 43% of Ghana, which is still not good because we've not reached the 50% threshold. So perception, attention, memory, and language, we're talking about Abed Bangura's social learning theories. And we learn how to behave by observing other behaviors and imitating them. I think that the behaviors of giving money in envelope, ice chairs, bicycles, all these things, you can never find that in Europe or America. So when we are picking the best practices, we have to pick the right things. And we have to stop it because we cannot sustain it.
We cannot sustain it.
Yeah, it's going to be only those who have money who will be in our parliament and will not have the quality of people to have the efficiency that we are looking for.
Indeed, thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Enoch-Entry. He is a governance expert. Thank you very much for joining us once again on Agenda tonight. Also to you, Professor Ali Dusedu, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. Thank you as well for joining us here. Once again, to you, Mr. Jeffrey Okanse, Anti-Corruption Advocate. Thank you for joining us. And to you as well, Dr. John Osai Kwapon, Democracy and Development Fellow at CDD Ghana. Thank you as well for joining us. My name is Beatrice Edu. Thank you so much for joining us on Agenda tonight. Do join us again next week. Have a good evening.
Why settle for